Yeah, just run away, bro. Just fucking get on your bike, ride away, start making a living as like a rat boy. You know, who lives in like a canal or something. It is an unseasonably. Oof. All right, editing jam. Cut that the fuck out. It is an unseasonably hot summer's day today, across the United Kingdom, which is kind of concerning because it's spring. The temperature is ranging from 32 to 36 degrees Celsius, which, if you are a follower of Fahrenheit, is around about 95. 96.8 at the upper range. So it's very immersive that I am playing Higurashi When They Cry today, because it's, the peak of... Well, it's not the peak of summer. It's not even summer yet. But, I'm going to feel the same oppressive heat that will be felt in-game. The situation's fucked, as we know. And I want to quickly talk about my theory and what seems to be a contradiction that has come up, which is my theory was that Rina had spearheaded the killing of Tomitake because she wanted to keep Reichi safe. That all kind of comes undone with the recent revelation that she cooked a sewing needle into our mochi. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't track. I can't make that make sense. She wants to protect us, but she's also putting fucking needles in our food. This being said, the girls start acting weird and their eyes go dull, and when it was just one of them, I could attribute it to like a personal quirk, oh, she's hiding this sort of side of herself and her eyes go dull. But now that two girls have exhibited this, it's weird because it's like two girls are just doing the same eye dull stuff, like dull eyes. All of a sudden it stops being about them and I have to start thinking, is this something else? Is something else affecting their will? That's the only way I can think of that would make sense for my theory. Is that it's not necessarily under her own power, under Rena's own power, that she tried to tear our mouths to shreds with a sewing needle. So it's very hard. It's very hard for me to say for sure, but it feels like we're out of excuses now, and we're going to have to go to school in this session. So maybe we'll get a bit more of an insight, and maybe we'll see Satoko and Rika again, because we've not seen them for a day or two, and I would like to get a gauge of how they're acting too, to be completely honest. Just finished my one drink. I have another drink ready to go. Because in this weather, it's very important that you stay hydrated. Especially when you're closing your door, sealing all airflow, and recording a scary game for 2.5 hours or so. So let's press on. I'm so scared. It's obvious. Of course I'm so scared. Like, at this part I am just saying the obvious, but it's how I cope. You simply continue. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of muffled footsteps stops in front of the door to my room. A moment of silence, as if whomever they belonged to was ascertaining if I was inside. Of all the things I should have been doing, continued on with my restless slumber. I was very much conscious, but my body hadn't caught up yet. Even with danger bearing down on me from just beyond the door. It was as if I was completely paralysed, unable to move. Without a doubt, this was sheer terror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? If they came into my room right now, then... Ah! Yeah? I sprung to my feet and threw my covers at my mum, who was opening the door. Whoa! Keiichi? What's the matter? Oh, this is so fucking sad. We're unraveling. Understandably so, might I add. Uh, uh, sorry. I was still half asleep. I thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m. But the morning sun was already streaming through the gaps between the curtains. It felt nothing like morning. Yesterday, I must have fallen asleep right after that. And I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. But it didn't feel like that at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up, and my sense of balance felt off. I felt feverish enough that it was clear to me that I was still not well. Well, Keiichi, how are you feeling? Can you make it into school? I felt far from well enough. No, I wasn't mentally fit to go. I was still plagued with the terror from yesterday. If I had swallowed that needle, what would have happened? Or what if it had pierced my tongue? There was undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I don't think that's all that it was. If they really wanted to... The hell was that noise? That in real life noise, what was that? If they really wanted to kill me, then there were other, more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such a dubious method as having me swallow a needle. Not to mention, like, the thing there, though, is if they didn't want to kill Keiichi, then that is risky, because that's just leaving it to a gamble. I can't get, like, a read on the motive at all. Like... the only logical conclusion I can come to is terror with an understood risk of death. Like, we want to scare the shit out of him, and if he dies, so be it. I don't understand the logic, and that's what is confusing. There's no logic behind it. Meaning, I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Rina and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die? But next time we'll use a more assured method. Like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this. Did you make it to the hospital? Did you take your medicine? Yeah, kinda. Something about my mum's dubious gaze bothered me. She seemed more concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him being sick. It was definitely It was definitely mental fatigue. I wasn't really physically ill. It'll be hard for you to get back on track once your daily routine is thrown off. Come on, get on up. They say wellness is a state of mind. I'd heard that line many times before. I was given an award in elementary school for having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier than everyone. Come on, go wash your face. Breakfast is already ready. And there isn't much time before Rina-chan comes and gets you. Ugh. Before she comes and gets me, eh? Jeez. Is she not gonna, like, mention the mochi that was thrown against the wall and on the floor? Like, is that not gonna come up? Because if that doesn't come up, I have to start thinking what is and isn't real then, and I don't have the time for that. Okay, there we go. That's a relief. By the way, were you the one who got bean paste all over the living room wall, Keiichi? You shouldn't do something like that. Your father was quite angry. I didn't feel particularly guilty for doing it, so I didn't have much of a reaction. Also, Mum didn't question me any further about it. She headed down there. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. What Mion said as she left yesterday, I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow, came back and dwelled in the back of my head. What did she mean by that? I didn't even really have to think about it. She was saying, don't be absent. Taking that a bit further, it was the same as her saying I should just go about living my life as if nothing happened. If I showed any sign of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their move. If I acted differently, someone like Oishi-san, for example, might end up noticing that something is up. Meaning, if I didn't watch my mouth, if I did anything different from the norm, in effect, it would end up communicating something to those who are undesirable. And it seems that was something that the girls didn't intend to forgive. So, I just went along as normal. No harm would come to me. Was that how it was going to be? All that misery I experienced up until yesterday would, almost creepily, just fade away. It was an enticing deal. Just by forgetting everything I'd seen or heard these last few days, I'd be able to keep living on like normal. There's no way such a selfish thing could... I swallowed hard, and once again deliberated on the idea that I had just rejected. Mion was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broken some rule of theirs, a chance. This is so fucked up. This is like the justifications that people give in their head, like in a fucking abusive situation. Like, it's not that I'm being mistreated, it's that I broke a rule and I'm being given a chance to correct that. It's so fucking awful. It's really, really awful seeing, like, Keiichi, who is just a very carefree person, like, well, not carefree, you know, just an easygoing person, completely, like, unraveling like this. Like, traits being torn apart, just being, like, boiled down to, like, subservience. It's really, really uncomfortable. Was what I did really something so unforgivable? But Mion had given me another chance. She was saying, if I just forgot everything and kept living on like I had been, I'd be forgiven. Keiichi, your food is going to get cold. Hurry up and get down here. Rina will be here if you don't hurry. I'm coming. I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. God, did we not even get changed before bed last? I'm assuming we went to bed, passed out, and now we're going downstairs in, like, the same clothes, which... oof. Uh-oh, stinky. I picked up my somewhat bland breakfast. That's fucking telling. Hinoli loves her breakfasts. They're not only amazing, they, like, changed his life and his sort of worldview on the morning. And now it's bland. It seemed that I didn't have much time. It was already past when I usually met up with Rina. Given yesterday's events, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. I needed to be ready to head to school by then. I had to forget everything that had happened the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. If it is to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Rina. Today of all days, the rice was dry and hard to get down. I jumped at the sound and dropped my chopsticks. That chime signalled that Rina had arrived. Mum hurried me along. Come on, Rena-chan's already here. Hurry, hurry. My mother's merry smile and my gloomy face were polar opposites. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Rena, who was waiting there on the other side of the door. What if it... I mean, it's probably Rena, right? But what if it's not? The Rena on the other side. Was it the Rena I knew? I couldn't keep her waiting. I needed to do things as usual. Oh, it's Rena. Morning! An invigorating greeting filtered in from across the doorway. I came since Keiichi-kun was a bit late. Will he be okay today, I wonder? The manner in which Rena was concerned was, without a doubt, the Rena I knew. But that was probably only if I reciprocated. Forget everything from yesterday. Pretend as though nothing had happened. Forget about the gruesome dismemberment. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened the following years. Forget about the people falling to their death, and the terminal illness and suicide, the fatal beatings and the disappearances. Forget it. Forget all of it. Forget that Rena and Mion were scary. Of course, forget it all. Forget about all of it. Forget about the mochi too. Forget. Rena once again asked to make sure. Can you make it to school? Yeah, I'm fine. Great. Then let's go. Mi-chan is waiting. Rena showed me her usual bright smile. Couldn't find any hint of deceit in her expression. My nervousness dissipated, giving way to relief. Well, you see, Satoko-chan was so insistent she could do it. As we were walking, Rena talked about a lot of different stuff. More so than usual. Then? Satoko-chan is clumsy, so she failed no matter how many times she tried. Oh, she was so cute. Everything Rena talked about was just silly nonsense, so I replied every so often and laughed from time to time. It was a rather laid-back conversation. We passed by one of our neighbours and they called out to us. Oh my! Keiichi-chan and Rena-chan, aren't you two a bit late today? Mion-chan said she was going on ahead. Uh-oh. Did Mi-chan look mad, I wonder? Oh, we need to hurry up, Keiichi-kun. After greeting our neighbour with a smile, Rena turned back to me and poked her tongue out. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile. Keiichi-kun smiled. Huh? What? Rena stopped and stared at me. I was thinking that you still hadn't recovered from your cold since you seemed down this morning, Keiichi-kun, but now you seem fine. Fine. It's wild. The question that has to be asked at this point is Rena just an incredible actress who is very good at compartmentalizing and is just genuinely differentiating between, cheerful self and dull eyes, aggressive self? Or is there literally some kind of a split happening, some kind of a changing of wills? Because if she's just acting right now, or if she's acting when her eyes go dull, then the ability to keep that separate is incredible and unbelievable. I just don't know. Even I'm starting to understand what Keiichi means when he says that's not the real Rena. Which Rena is going to be behind the door today? I get it. I understand it now. I thought it was denial at first, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm hitting the denial now, but it's so different and so unacknowledged. The eyes, look, I can never look at the eyes the same way again. With a grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Maibara, how can you still doubt Rina after she shows you a smile like that? Maybe I just had a high fever up until today, and I imagined everything that I thought happened because I was bedridden and delirious. I really hoped that was the case. If God would grant me just one wish, there's only one thing that I'd wish for. I would want what had happened in the past few days, more specifically, from the night of the Watanagashi up until last night. I wanted all of that to have never happened. I wonder how many times I'd wish for that. I wonder how many times I'd wished for this past few days. As long as Rina kept on smiling like this, I think it might just become reality. So I wanted Rina to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling. So, Keiichi-kun, those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Oh my god, man. You know what? The mo... I'm just gonna say it. The moment we prayed to God, everything got worse. Immediately. Just now. You were like, "Hey God, I gotta queue up a request for you," and then this. Okay, here's the best way I can think of to reply to this. Now, I can think of this because I have just had about 25 continuous seconds of silence and I am not actively in a life or death situation, but I think the best thing you can say is, I did have the mochi. They were really great. I understood the emotions and the meaning that you put into them. I can't expect anyone to think of that in the fucking fly, on the fucking fly, though. That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating. The relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Rina's smile was the same as usual. Her eyes were gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Because, right, now at this point, I really am starting to think that there's like a difference in wills. That's the best way I can think to describe it. I'm avoiding stuff like, dissociative identity disorder, because I don't think it's that in the sense of it being a disorder. But I think that somehow, in some way, the actions that these girls are committing are being altered and are being like, and their view of them are being altered. Maybe as far as Rina knows, she just made us a mochi ball to go with Mion's. She doesn't know that she put a needle in it. Maybe. It can't. This can be the only explanation for like the perfect acting, like, and the innocence, and it can't be anything else. It cannot be anything else. Of course, she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Rina was asking, did you get the message? She was probably trying to convey that. Oh, alright. Keiichi-kun? I was reluctant to give an answer. Rina stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Uh, don't, don't hesitate, Keiichi Maibara. Rina was acting the same as always, wasn't she? I needed to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. But both my throat and my mouth had gone dry, and my lips were stuck together. Hurry and answer, Keiichi. Not that much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I had to say something quickly. The... the... Rena playfully mimicked what I said when I finally squeaked something out. Rena's reaction was still normal. It seems that there wasn't as long of a pause as I had thought. Somehow I finally squeaked out the rest. Delicious! However, my strained efforts neither sullied nor brightened Rena's expression. That feels odd. For a moment, I panicked thinking I'd replied incorrectly. But after a few moments, Rena broke into her usual soft smile and giggled with a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the morning air. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh as well. I see. So you did eat all of them. So did you eat all of them? I wonder. I wonder. My timid smile froze again. You know, the thing about this is, we found the one with the needle in it, and we threw all the others. What if there was something in one of the others? Did you make it without swallowing the sewing needle? Was that what she was asking? If I had swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here. I couldn't finish all of them. There's still some left. I was scared out of my wits, but that's how I played it. Huh? What about the homework to see if you could tell which one Rena made? That homework. Was it due today? Yeah, it's due today. Michan will get angry. There's probably a penalty game ready for you. We both laughed at each other again. To a casual observer, it was just a typical morning. If I could just let myself believe that even I'd think it was just a usual morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. There was something unimaginable. There was something unimaginable buried beneath the facade of this giggling Rena. Lies! I recalled that unexpected, piercing voice that I could hardly believe came from Rena's mouth. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. Was it only at that particular time that something evil had possessed Rena? No, that was wrong. That was still Rena. Oishi-san told me, didn't he? Actually, I looked into her. Before Ryuko-san moved away to Hinamizawa, she was suspended from school. Oh god, of course, there's that aspect to it as well. Now we know, because Oishi decided that he'd tell us everything, which I still think is fucked up of him. I get that information, you have to arm yourself with information, but it's not going to help in the way that... It's not going to help. Because now we're just going to second guess Rena completely. And on the off chance that there is a nice, friendly girl there, now our view of her has been forever changed. Not just by the recent days, but by the knowledge of her past. Seems she went through her school building and broke all the windows. Rena had a disorder that normal people didn't. Okay, well, let's be careful with the word normal there, Keiichi, okay? I know it's 1983, but, you know. And that's just one thing. The other thing, I looked up that disorder, like, during the session when I learnt about it. It doesn't seem to be behavioural. I understand that, obviously, like, the stress of a disorder can alter someone, you know, mentally, but all of the signs and symptoms that I could see, the common ones, are, well, there's brain fog, I guess, and dizziness, but none of these things, no matter how pleasantly she smiled, that face would not change. That fact would not change. But, like, again, the disorder isn't... It doesn't... Am I misunderstanding something? Well, I couldn't even imagine how she looked as she broke all the glass throughout the school. One thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. If it was some sudden outburst of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. But she broke all of the windows all throughout her school. Just imagine going through your own school, breaking the windows with a bat. Okay, you know what? I'll give this game a pass in this instance because I think this is representative of the spiraling paranoia of Keiichi, that he's sort of now like, uh-oh, she's got a disorder. I don't know how I feel about her. It's like, that's not... And also, if he doesn't know what this disorder is, that's what his assumption is going to be. Die! Shut up, game. Swinging full force at each pane of glass, one after another, paying no heed to the flying shards. The classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden turn of events. I wonder where she could have found the most windows lined up in a row. Probably the hallway. Smash, walk, wind up, smash, walk, wind up. It was difficult for me to connect that horrifying image with Rena smiling at me right now. But I just had to imagine it. Impossible, because it was unimaginable. That naive way of thinking no longer worked. The unpleasant, piercing sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Rena treads across the broken shards, walking towards me. Rena's classmates going pale as they forget to even breathe. I wondered what they did as Rena came closer, breaking windows along her path. Did they earnestly try to bring her to her senses by saying something? Or did they jump at her, trying to stop her savagery? Or did they run to the staff room to call for the teachers? Probably none of those. In the face of that blood-curdling sight, of Rena busting window after window, undoubtedly, all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing the path for Rena to continue. It would be cruel to blame anyone for looking the other way. No, they weren't simply looking the other way. They knew it was the only way they could protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves as Rena's new target. What would Rena have done to whoever attracted her attention? I think, from a logical point of view, it's absolutely understandable that Keiichi is thinking about this in this way. As far as he can tell, last night she served him a mochi bun with a needle in it. But I think it's a testament to the fucking paranoia that he is now feeling. The answer was obvious. She would have undoubtedly acted according to her whims. Meaning I would be the next window. Rena, staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot as she drew closer. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralysed. Then Rena struck me with a bat, over and over again, like I was one of those windows. I crouched down onto the floor, desperately protecting my head. Rena didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Oh, we're having a full-on, breakdown, I think. We've been lost in these thoughts, and, it's becoming real to us now. From the outside looking in, is this going to look like we've just ceased functioning on the walk? Zealously, she hit me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this over and over again? I peered up to see. Her expression was so indifferent, it was completely unnerving. It's because no matter how many times she struck me, I didn't make as pleasant a sound as the other windows. She struck me, continuously, over and over again. The sound Rena wanted didn't come out. Our classmates standing around didn't try to stop her. They didn't want to be the next window. Somebody save me. Turning a blind eye unless we're hanging out? But of course everyone in class scrambled to obtain the highest standardized test scores. They'd gain nothing from saving a cram-school tryhard like me. Eventually, there would be a faint sound, similar to when you crack open a walnut, and some sort of reddish-black spray would shoot out. Anyway, it wasn't that Rena momentarily lost herself in her anger. After forcing myself to breathe and calming down my heart, I recalled what Oishi-san told me. In the counselor's medical report, he recorded all the conversations he had had with Rena-san. It shows up, and quite a bit at that. What does? She mentioned the word Oyashiro-sama. Following that, Rena was suspended and had regular examinations at the hospital. Then, as Rena was undergoing counselling, she said it over and over. Oyashiro-sama. Seems that the Oyashiro-sama she spoke of was like a ghost appearing in her house every night, standing over a pillow, looking down at her. That was only a piece of their conversation, so I still couldn't see the big picture, but it was by no means a happy little conversation. And what Rena did, was she saying that that ghastly incident was a result of her being possessed by Oyashiro-sama? Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's why I wanted to say the mysterious deaths every year happened because of some sort of conspiracy. Every time I talked with Oishi-san, I was more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not of some curse. Except if it were people perpetrating the incidents, my friends were somehow deeply connected. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe those who acted the kindest to me were deeply involved in the incidents. Why? How? For what reason? Was Rena... was everybody... It was much more painful and troublesome than accepting that it was just Oyashiro-sama's curse. In the aftermath, Rena had admitted to her doctor that it's because she was possessed by Oyashiro-sama. I felt a strange sense of relief from that. So that's how it was. There wasn't a second side to Rena. She did that because she was possessed by something strange like Oyashiro-sama. I'm so deeply upset because I had this whole thing. I had this whole idea out about like 15 minutes ago that like, oh, this isn't a secret, a secret side to them. They're being possessed or something, or they're being controlled. Now that I'm hearing that coming out of Keiichi's thoughts, I can see it for the desperation that it is. I can't fucking stand that the game is mimicking... that I have accidentally mimicked what the game was about to say. It exposes the naivety in what I had said, in what my hope was there. Oh my god, okay. I've already made peace with the fact that there's not going to be a happy ending to this, but it wasn't Rena's fault. Oyashiro-sama was the one to blame. I knew. This was all backwards. Refusing to believe there was a curse, I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now that my close friends were the ones under suspicion, I changed my belief at my own convenience, saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse to blame. Which was the better choice? Accepting that Oyashiro-sama's curse exists, or that Rena and the rest of them were deeply involved in the string of mysterious deaths? I didn't want to think about it. If I just didn't think about it, I'd be able to continue the same as always. I wanted to believe that, but that was no longer possible. I had received their message. It was pathetic of me to try and bend the meaning to my own convenience. Regardless of whether my opponent was a human or a curse, I won't let it kill me. As if I would just bend over and give in, for no good reason at all. Keiichi-kun, you've been making a really weird face. Why, I wonder, I wonder. Inhaling sharply upon hearing Vina's voice, I came back to my senses. Before I'd realised it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, I exorcised all those terrifying thoughts. I take a quick break to open my door and just have a drink, let some air flow through. Jesus, it's been like 43 minutes of recording, and we've just made it to school. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Vina could have done such terrible things. It was like I was trying to placate myself. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the classroom. At least it wasn't a fucking bowling ball or something. I guess Satoko's not trying to kill us. The chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony. Oh, how befitting for the truant Keiichi-san. Good morning to both of you, Keiichi and Rina. Good morning, Satoko-chan, Rika-chan. Not quite in the mood for it. I didn't really react to Satoko's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked past silently. What is this? How discouraging indeed. Ichi doesn't seem back to his usual self yet. Yeah. Take it easy on him for today, okay? Suddenly, there was a slap down on my shoulder. It hurt a bit. Hey, Kei-chan, did you get enough rest? It was Mion. My mind was full with the stuff about Rina, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday. Yeah, morning. What's with that unenergetic greeting? Did you eat the mochi I brought you? I'm like this because I ate them. Those words were itching to be blurted out. I really just didn't have the appetite. I ate a few, but quite a lot were left over. Huh? What about the homework? Do you have an answer for which one was Rina's? Keiichi-kun said he forgot his homework. Sheesh. And we can't help it. It's time for your penalty. Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. There was nothing from our exchanges that would cause our classmates to suspect anything was amiss. But of course, anyone listening to our conversation up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that, regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi Maibara, no one would ever suspect them. That fact had me terrified. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. Do we have to do a club activity? I don't know if we have a club activity in us. The lack of music is really driving it home. There's none of the whimsy. There's none of the, like, reverie from earlier. It's just survive. That's all it is. We just have to survive. This free study period was a convenient time to consider where I stood. I gently closed my eyes and pondered the ridiculous position I was in right now. I'm like, don't close your eyes. That's how paranoid I am. I'm like, don't close your fucking eyes. First of all, What if you'll get your... What if the penalty happens while your eyes are closed? Whoa! First of all, what I shouldn't forget was how dangerous of a situation I was in. I had fallen out of favour with them. After interacting with Rishi-san multiple times, I could see it as I was getting closer to the heart of the matter. The warning yesterday with the mochi was a good indicator of that. No, calling it a warning was just my habit of understating things. It probably had no meaning beyond stunting my progress and buying themselves some time. Until they had a method of completely erasing me. They were just biding their time. Okay. Even though they were keeping me under their thumb with threats, it didn't change the fact that I knew too much. The chilling sensation of my desk made me call Satoshi Hoju, the boy who was using the seat until last year when he disappeared. It makes you wonder, like... And, by the way, I'm not saying this to suggest fucking going and talking to her, but... Is Satoko really in on this? She's lost most of her family. Was he also similar to me? Did he learn something he shouldn't have and was erased? Why him and not Satoko? I wouldn't let them get rid of me so easily. Never. That's what I mean. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. If they were all in on some conspiracy, all four of them, it just doesn't make sense. Because if Satoko knows too much, then why doesn't... No, sorry. If Satoshi doesn't know too much... Sorry, my words are wrong. It's too hot and I'm stressed out. If Satoshi knew too much, why doesn't Satoko? What's the difference? What? Were they really trying to kill me? I've had these contradictory feelings for a while now. Even though I suspected them, I felt I had to cover for them. Even having witnessed all of their suspicious behaviour, a morning like this just made it all seem like an elaborate hoax. No, that's just what I want to believe. Doubting my friends, covering for them. My life was in danger. Or was it? Actually, I was debating a wrong point. Given my current situation, those points were something that should have been deliberated on a long time ago. But really, Rina and the rest of them? Were they actually aiming to kill me? The little voice inside me continued to torment me with these unresolvable trains of thought. Are you an idiot, Keiichi Maibara? The answer should be obvious. But maybe. That sewing needle might have just been an accident, right? How could you screw up and drop a sewing needle into a piece of mochi? The benefit of the doubt can only go so far. Both Rina and Mion had acted and behaved suspiciously, but maybe it was all some sort of misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? It wasn't just suspicious. It was outright ludicrous, right? Rina just corrected me for lying. And Mion only asked me about what I had for lunch. Rina was standing outside my door, eavesdropping for a solid hour. She was probably just waiting for my phone call to end. For a whole hour outside your room. And is it normal to go home afterwards without saying anything? Heard from Oishi-san, didn't you? About what Rina did at her former school. But at the hospital, she said it was Oyashiro-sama's fault. She... Cut it out, Keiichi Maibara. Don't you realise they're out to kill you? Oh, we said that out loud. I inadvertently blurted those words out loud. Hearing myself say that so directly left me dumbfounded for a few moments. Afterwards, I had to look around to check if anyone else heard it. My little soliloquy cut a little too close to the truth. Even though I could feel the murderous intent from Rena and the others. Part of me, somewhere, was still trying to deny that. This late in the game, such hesitation could be fatal. I knew that. But I was just your average student, a man living his normal, ordinary life. Do you think I could suddenly believe that my friends, who I had been happily laughing with up until last Sunday, now intended to kill me? Right? You're too soft, Keiichi. This time, I remembered to keep my voice down so only I could hear it. There was one thing I now understood. I was too soft. I didn't completely understand how dangerous Rena and the rest of them were. Oh, I wasn't trying to understand. I was too soft for not listening to Oishi-san when he was earnestly showing me the heart of the matter. I didn't listen because I was too busy pretending to be dejected. I didn't comprehend it. I was just running away. I didn't comprehend it, so nobody had any notion to try and kill me. I need to get rid of such naive thoughts. I'm starting to worry that Keiichi might kill someone at this point. I really... Oh, no. Oh, I'm starting to worry that Keiichi's gonna fucking kill someone. He's gonna kill someone, isn't he? He's gonna get so paranoid and so terrified that he kills someone. And he's getting the most paranoid about Rena. He's gonna kill Rena. So soon. The day was already over. I didn't really recall eating lunch or doing anything in class. Oh, you dissociated through the whole day. Oof. Been there, friendo. My friends were putting their desks together in preparation for club activities. Not long ago, I probably would have happily jumped into that circle. My, Keiichi-san. How rude of you to even think about leaving. The way Satoko spoke was so typical and familiar, it almost physically hurt. Huh? Keiichi-kun, is today not a good day, I wonder? And we were gonna win big together. Oh. Seeing Rena's expression, which said she was really looking forward to today, was hard to take. Hey, Keiichi. Maybe Yoichi-san is just some enormous jerk trying to separate me from the others by lying to me. Slap. Trying to expunge such weak-minded thinking, I slapped myself in the face. Keiichi-kun? Yeah. Was Rena really trying to kill me? I wish someone would tell me it was a hoax. I didn't care if it actually was one or not. I just wanted someone to say it was. Ugh, yet another weak-willed thought. How did I ever become this naive? Are you alright? Does your head hurt? Apparently, that was how my inner dilemma appeared to Rena. You're pale. Can you make it home by yourself? Maybe I should accompany you home, I wonder. No, it's okay. Sorry. I can get home by myself. Have the meeting without me. Upon hearing that I wasn't going to participate in the club meeting, Mion pouted unhappily. Since Kei-chan was so bent on a revenge match, we were even going to play that deduction game from before, too. Keiichi-san doesn't have the burning desire for a rematch. How pathetic! I wouldn't fall for some dumb taunt. Without even a real retort, I just grabbed my bag and was about to get up. Someone's hand perched itself gently on my head. Keiichi doesn't seem to be well. How very unfortunate. It was Rika-chan. She was stretched up as far as she could, doing her best to pat my head with her petite hand. It felt so nice, which made things even harder. Sorry. Everybody. See ya! That's all I said as I quickly left the classroom. They said something to me as I was leaving, but I couldn't make it out. I managed to make it all the way to the entrance in that state of mind, took out my shoes, put them on, and went forward. Forward. Pardon that heart, Keiichi Maibara. They were, for some unfathomable reason, trying to kill me. They were plotting something dubious, watching my every move. But I couldn't hate them, because weren't they my friends? Part of me lamented my naivete, while another part lamented the fact that I had lost something important by lamenting over it in the first place. It felt like my personality was being ripped in two along with my body. Sorry, just remembering the prologue. You know what? Let's treat ourselves by reading through that introductory scene again. Eh? Should we do that? Let's do that. If I was going to be ripped apart anyways, having my body ripped apart would have been far better. I trusted her. No, I still trust her. Even in this very moment, I trust her. But I'm starting to realise I only wanted to trust her because I refused to accept the truth. It was as if I was trying to convince myself in such a silly, sobbing voice. And those tears making a mess of my face. That mechanical, repetitious sound finally stilled, and everything fell silent. Only the cry of the cicadas remained, annoyingly loud, and yet I felt as if I could still hear her voice. But that's not possible. She is no longer speaking. The only one crying is me. She never cried. Even when she repeated those words over and over, she never expressed any emotion because there were none to show. If she had no tears to shed for me, then I shouldn't need to shed any for her. Then why? This pain in my eye is getting moist. Why was this still happening? Still wanted to believe I hadn't been split apart. That's enough, right? Inside me, an inner voice whispered gently. My spirit had suffered enough. And countless times I'd wavered over whether I should just throw the battered thing away. Except I've stubbornly refused to do that, haven't I? I feel better if I just threw it away. Even knowing that, I chose to believe, didn't I? Only I can understand that painful struggle and appreciate it. Hey, me. I've tried more than enough. I'll acknowledge that much. So, isn't it alright to just take the easy way out? Besides, I'm not throwing it away. I'm leaving it behind with her. Like flowers by a grave. Now then, calm your nerves. Even though you can't feel your right arm, just lift it up. With every swing, forget a little more. That kindness made me happy. That adorable smile brought me joy. I liked petting your head. I loved how demure you were. Because this will be the last time. Because when I swing this down, I'll forget. This is my first and last bouquet for you. Perhaps I really did love you. We're having the conflicting inner voice. We're describing ourselves as being torn apart. This paranoia is going to lead us to a very, very fucking horrible, horrible decision. Oh, fuck. I hate that I might have figured that out, because now I can do nothing but click towards it. If this is what Oyashiro-sama's curse was like, it was just too harsh. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, I was wrong for not believing in your curse, but I believed in it now. Completely. Your curse does exist. So seriously, give me a break. I beg you. Come on. Dinner was unusually bland. It had no flavour or aroma. You're like completely losing yourself, my man. You're like slipping further into a part of your mind that you've never been before. You're like not even here. Can't remember half the day. Food doesn't taste of anything. You've split into like two mindsets that are arguing with each other. This is bad. This is so fucking bad. The miso soup that normally tantalised my appetite instead tasted like nothing but boiled water. It's a proper meal. It's called bread and water soup. Help me. Dad was eating with us that night. It was a rare occurrence in this household. When he got into his work, he ate and slept on his own schedule. My dad never cared about the time. Since my dad was at the dinner table, he either meant he had just reached a good point to take a break, or he was in a slump. So yeah, he just doesn't understand the motivation that creators have. Your partnership was just a verbal agreement, wasn't it? It's so hard to agree on things, why not just end it? I feel like it's an industry with a lot of back scratching, but when it gets in the way of business... I wasn't able to pick out much of my mum and dad's conversation, but I could tell that it wasn't a very pleasant topic. That, of course, made the disgusting food even less appealing. Staring listlessly at the exchange between my parents, my mind wandered off to the same thought processes going all day long. Friends close to me. No, they used to be friends, but I could no longer trust them. Right now, I was greatly lacking in allies. People I trusted. People I could depend on when push came to shove. They were something I just didn't have. Having just one ally would have been incredibly reassuring in the currently hopeless situation I was in. I put down my chopsticks and looked over at my parents who were still talking about work. The first course of action that came to mind was to tell my parents everything. Currently, there wasn't a single person from Himurizawa I could trust 100%. That meant the only people I could trust were my parents. But if I told them everything that had happened up till now, would they understand? Rena, for example. That neighbourly Rena, who was so diligent in looking after me, came to get me every day and sometimes brought over a share of what she made. How could I explain that she wanted to kill me? No matter how I explained, it would probably be difficult for anybody to comprehend. Somewhat eccentric dad wouldn't understand, and my high-strung mum would probably drag me out as a psychiatrist in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that was the amount of trust that existed in our relationship. Even if they did come to understand, what could they possibly do? Unless they could uncover the truth, they wouldn't be able to protect me. No. By informing them of these unnecessary things, I'd be putting my parents in danger as well. Considering that the victims in the past were often married couples, I couldn't even joke about it. For the entire my bar of family to have an accident or to just vanish into thin air, it was easily possible in Hinama's hour. What was important here was that knowing something unnecessary put you in danger. The most unsettling question was, how did they know that I knew? The way I see it, there are two explanations for this. There's the mundane explanation and the other explanation. The mundane explanation is that the Sonozakis have eyes and ears everywhere and have been able to just sort of, use an information network to spy on us. And that's how. The other explanation is that the deity of this town is omniscient as to the affairs of the town and is possessing villagers to act on its behalf. If I explain that to anyone, I'd sound not particularly healthy. As long as they didn't know. My parents might not fall victim. That was one way to think about it, I guess. At least it was like that in my case. After I found out, things started becoming odd. In other words, it meant the following. As long as my parents didn't know anything, nothing would happen to them. That's great. So we picked out the only two people who could potentially have been spoken to by us, and we have justified never, ever under any circumstances speaking to them about it. Okay? Well, option now is Oishi, but I don't particularly care for him. Because on some... Look, I understand that his goals might be noble, but on some desperate crusade for justice, to try and clear it all up before he retires, he's roped a random 15-year-old into this. It has endangered his life and is turning him into a paranoid, dissociating wreck. Fucking hate him for that. It's so difficult because he seems like the most reasonable person at the moment, but he's a awful, untrustworthy person who will just be like, hey, you want to know the medical records of your friends, who, by the way, might be murderers? Fuck, they might be murderers, but even so, fuck. And yet, why is it that the only out I can see here is begging for him to fucking get me out of this town? Call him up now. Call him up and beg and cry. Scream at him for him to come and pick me up. Take me to a witness protection place or a fucking hospital. Anything. Which means that this house would be a safe haven as long as my parents were in. I knew these were just assumptions based on conjecture on top of conjecture. Wanting this house to be a safe haven, that was the pinnacle of my weak-willed method of thinking. I had to concede that it was not completely safe. It was only safer than the outside. I knew that I couldn't rely on my parents. No, I couldn't risk getting my parents involved. Then the only person who could be my ally would be Oishi-san. Him, and him alone. He was the only person who understood the situation I was in. He didn't care so much about my safety, but he was without a doubt passionate about solving this case. It was a bit frustrating. Oishi-san was basically the whole reason I was in this mess. Now to get out of it, I had to rely on him, meaning it was all going according to his devices. It was just my job to look appetizing while bobbing in the waves as bait. Then, when the fish started gathering around, Oishi-san would pull up the big haul. It was slightly infuriating, but even I thought that was the best course of action. So then, what should I do? Patience was the first rule of fishing. Just keep waiting until the fish actually bites. But I wasn't simply bait. There were lots of ways for me to struggle before being devoured. When they struck, I needed to somehow dodge just enough and tag out to Oishi-san. No question, it was going to be hard. The timing to bring Oishi-san in would be difficult. He was in the city, not Hinamizawa. So if I phoned him in my moment of need, it would take him about 30 minutes to reach me. So I needed to run away for those 30 minutes. For example, if we set up a rendezvous point for dire situations or something, I'd just have to hide out there until Oishi-san arrived. Okay. Almost see it now. I was still being chased around in the dark by boogeymen, but now I knew which way to go. I would never have imagined this would be so reassuring. Oh, yeah. It would probably be best if I had a concealed weapon when things got rough. Ah, yeah? Yeah? Typically, that would call for a switchblade, but that wasn't too reassuring for combat. Also, since it was recognised as a weapon by the public, that also wasn't good. Really, when the time comes, a long weapon like a bat would work in my favour. You know something? You're starting to sound a little bit like how you described Rena earlier. Just increasingly confused and desperate, and wielding a bat. I remembered there was a metal bat at school. I could be confident with that when push came to shove. If I pretended I was practicing my swing, then it wouldn't be suspicious for me to always carry it around. I could go to school early tomorrow and secure it. Just possessing a weapon may be enough to deter them. Also, one more thing. Insurance. It could be something like a note or a memo. I would write down everything that's happened as a sort of journal. In case I suddenly vanished, this journal would be left behind. With my journal in his possession, Oishi-san should be able to avenge my death. Damn. We're getting so far gone that now it's not even about surviving anymore. It's about securing vengeance if we die. We're just ready to fight now. Fight and drag people down with us, should we lose. I left my parents engrossed in their conversation about work and went back to my room. I tore out a piece of paper from a notebook and made my way to my desk. I have a bad feeling that we're about to be interrupted, by the way, but you know, we'll see how that goes. Last time I wrote a journal was for summer homework in elementary school. In the off chance something bad happened, the police could use my diary as a lead. I mean, unless someone else finds it first, Keiichi. So I should only write down the facts. How should I start? Jotted down my thoughts as they came. I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear for my life. It made me laugh nervously. It was a line that showed up often in detective stories. I never even dreamed I would be in the type of situation where I'd write it myself. I do not know why they are after my life. Rena and the others were suspicious, but I had no proof. And that's why I couldn't write anything more. If someone just found that note randomly, it would read like just a couple of lines of paranoid rambling. And that's really very unfortunate considering the reality of the situation. I laughed wryly at myself for writing such a passage draped in mystery. Would the police be able to get the hint from reading this enigmatic passage? I could only pray that they would. Stop praying. Every time you pray, it goes wrong. Stop praying. What I prayed for the most, though, was that this journal never needed to play its part. Here, I laughed nervously. It was too simple, so I wrote down one more line I just thought of. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Was that too much? I probably shouldn't write more than that. If I wrote any more, then it would seem like I was just delusional. In order to appear to the reader that the person who had written this was of sound mind, I chose not to write anything else at that point. I just needed to add more as I learned more about the truth. I folded the paper and thought about a place to hide it. By hiding it somewhere obvious, there was the chance that they would uncover it instead. On the other hand, if it was in too obscure of a location, there was the risk of nobody finding it at all. In the end, I decided to take the clock off my wall and stick my folded note on the back of it with Scotch tape. After that, I put the clock back into its normal position. Yeah, it didn't look like anything was hidden behind it. Now I needed to set it up, such that if anything happens to me, my parents could find it. I looked at it from countless different angles until I was satisfied, and I made my way downstairs. My parents were still talking about work. It didn't look like it was going to end anytime soon, so I cut in. Sorry to interrupt. I have something I want to talk to you about. I'd never started off a conversation like that before, so my parents were both startled. They stopped talking and turned towards me. What is it, Keiichi? I have a favour to ask of you. Please listen. Just in case, yeah? If it's not urgent, can we do this later? Right now, Mummy and Daddy have something urgent they're talking about. I didn't think their talk was more urgent than mine. In any case, I stated my request. Just in case, okay? If I die, both of my parents' eyes went as wide as saucers. If I die, I want you to put the clock on my wall in my coffin. If they did that, then they'd probably find it. My memoir. Both my parents remained wide-eyed, not moving an inch. I couldn't blame them. I made that clock in shop class and I really like it. So please. What's the matter? Keiichi, did something happen? Mum was finally able to ask me with a questioning gaze. Of course, this was a normal response for when someone's son suddenly talked about a subject like this. I felt bad about making them worry, but right now I just wanted them to think about the clock in my room. With the awkward mood leaving the room in silence, I decided to go back up to my room. I want to go to school early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed. Good night. Saying only that, I left the living room. I needed to get to school early tomorrow and secure that bat. I should make today the last day I went to school with Rena. As I climbed the stairs, I heard my mum call my name, but I pretended not to hear her. It wasn't something I could talk about with my parents. If I talked about it, it would only make things more dangerous. The fight that had begun was mine and mine alone. I couldn't rely on anybody. I wouldn't be killed. Not when I still knew nothing. Oh my god, this is so fucking bad. This is so dire. Not feeling so... Yeah, no kidding. No fucking kidding not feeling so hot. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, some of the end of that actually hit kind of hard. Uh, and yeah, Eiichi's fucking unraveling. It's not looking good at all, especially considering the prologue. Well, let's look at this tip before we call it, and as much as I would like to do more, it's too hot. It's too hot. I have to stop and open the door. So let's just read this, and I'll just have to leave it for today. Keiichi-kun's been feeling down lately. Maybe he's in a bad mood? I wonder. Maybe he's on his period. Me-chan, that's gross. Yep. What do you think? Dunno. Could be that Kei-chan... Maybe? I don't know. That day, Kei-chan was in that car talking to some tubby middle-aged guy, right? Yeah, no mistake. Adawishi. He probably fed him something fishy. You look serious. Keiichi-kun's face was so pale. You see, you might not know this, but he's actually the messenger of Oyashiro-sama. Huh? What do you mean? Whenever he shows up, someone is demoned away. No lie. Oh, is that so? The year before last, when Rika-chan's mum drowned, right? Right before that, she was visited by Oishi. Now that you mention it, he was around before Satoshi-kun transferred out too. Transferred? You're so sweet, Rina. So this time he appeared before Keiichi-kun. So Keiichi-kun is going to be demoned away too? An empty silence hung in the air. And then it was suddenly interrupted by loud laughter. We need to read that again. In analysis mode this time. Keiichi-kun's been feeling down lately. Maybe he's in a bad mood. I wish I had a time frame for when this was. I have to assume, based on how the previous tips have worked, because when they're not dated, it's sort of concurrent, you know? Which means that this discussion happened today. Which means that Rina doesn't seem aware. What do you think? Don't know. Could be that Kei-chan maybe... Kei-chan was in that car talking to some tubby middle-aged guy, right? Yeah, no. He's probably fed him something fishy. So Mion knows of Uishi. He knows him by name. Which makes sense because there's the indication that her family has frequent dealings with the police, you know. He looked serious. H.E.'s face was pale. You might not know this. He's actually the messenger of Oyashiro-sama. Mion. Huh? What do you mean? Whenever he shows up, someone is demoned away. No lie. Oh. The year before last, when Rika-chan's mum drowned. Right before that, she was visited by Oishi. Me, I'm saying it so, like, matter-of-factly, you know. Talking about the drowning of one of her friend's mums. He was around before Satoshi-kun transferred out, too. Oh. Rina doesn't know? Mion seems to know, but Rina doesn't know. He appeared before Keiichi-kun, so Keiichi-kun is going to be demoned away too. And then they both started laughing, as though it's like a joke. Mion, what the heck? Oh, that's concern. Mion knows a lot more than she lets on, and I mean, as far as I can tell, Rina thinks that Satoshi was transferred away. Okay. Well, let's think on that for a while, I suppose.